Welcome to Binge Guide, everyone. Get ready, because we think we found something that could definitely be the next show you'll want to queue up.
That's right. We've done a deep dive, looked at all the early info on a new film. It's called Neighborhood Watch.
Yeah, Neighborhood Watch. And we're going to give you the spoiler-free rundown on this one.
Exactly. It's a crime thriller, and it's set for release April 25th, 2025.
Okay, so pretty soon, though.
Yeah. Select theaters in Canada and the U.S., but also, importantly, on demand. So accessible.
Good. So what's the hook? What draws you in?
Well, the setup is immediately intriguing. You've got Simon, played by Jack Quaid.
The boys, yeah.
The very same.
Yeah.
And Simon is described as a young man dealing with some mental health challenges. He's living in this, seemingly quiet suburban neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And he becomes convinced, absolutely convinced, he's seen an abduction.
Okay, wow. Right away, that's a compelling start. Because your perception is immediately framed, isn't it?
Totally. That's the crux of it. His mental health history means the authorities, well, they basically dismiss him.
Right. So you're immediately put in this position of, well, do we believe him? What's actually real here?
Exactly. It plays with perspective right from the get-go. Whose truth are we following?
So, feeling unheard, I guess, he turns to his neighbor, Ed.
That's the one.
Right.
Ed, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Ah, okay. JDM. So Negan, the comedian, you know the type.
Definitely brings a certain presence.
Mm-hmm.
Ed's this retired security guard. Sounds pretty jaded, maybe a bit misanthropic, carrying his own baggage.
So not exactly the welcoming type, probably.
Doesn't sound like it. And Simon reluctantly asks for his help. It sets up this really unlikely duo dynamic.
Yeah, I was going to say, that pairing sounds fantastic. You've got Quaid's character, maybe more vulnerable, trying to get back to normal. And then Morgan's character, cynical, withdrawn. What's the thinking there, you reckon? The contrast.
Well, I think that contrast is probably key. It creates instant tension, but also, maybe potential for growth or connection they didn't expect.
Right. Like they might challenge each other or need something the other provides.
Exactly. Simon needs someone, anyone, to believe him, or at least help him look. And maybe Ed, deep down, needs, a purpose, redemption, something.
Interesting. Now, something else caught my eye. The tone. Apparently, it's inspired by, 80s action dramedies.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? They mentioned Midnight Run. Something wild.
Wow, okay. That's not what you'd immediately expect for a thriller about a possible abduction witnessed by someone with mental health issues.
No, it really isn't. But think about those films. They had stakes, yeah? But also strong character work, often dark humor, those buddy dynamics.
True, so maybe Neighborhood Watch isn't just going to be grim suspense. It might have layers, some levity maybe.
Could be. Or maybe the 80s thing is more about that character-driven focus within a high-stakes plot. It definitely suggests something more than just a straight genre piece, I think.
And speaking of cast, you mentioned Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's actually reuniting with Malin Akerman here, right?
That's right. From Watchmen, she plays Dee Dee McNally. It's noted as a supporting role, but still.
Yeah, for fans of Watchmen, that's a nice little connection. Adds another familiar face.
For sure. And, even in a supporting part, an actor like Akerman can bring a lot. We also have Cecile Cubillo as Detective Glover, Jim Clock, Harrison Stone. A solid supporting cast listed.
Good to know. Okay, let's talk production a bit. I read something about the filming schedule being incredibly short.
Yeah, apparently just 3 weeks, which is wild.
3 weeks. Wow.
And because Quaid and Morgan have almost all their scenes together, Morgan apparently called it a crash course in brotherhood.
I bet. That kind of intense schedule, working that closely, do you think that affects the final film?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes that pressure cooker environment can create a real energy, a focus.
Yeah, like an urgency.
Exactly. And that brotherhood comment suggests maybe their on-screen chemistry developed really quickly, felt authentic because they were just thrown into it together. Could be really palpable on screen.
Makes sense. So, okay, overall vibe. You mentioned thriller, but what kind of thriller? Psychological, jump scares, what are we expecting?
Definitely leaning psychological, based on the descriptions. Tension, a haunting atmosphere, unexpected twists. That seems to be the goal.
Right. And the director, Duncan Skiles, he did the Clovehitch Killer, didn't he?
He did. And that film was, well, it was disturbing. Very focused on character fragility, building dread slowly, not relying on cheap scares.
Okay, so that definitely points towards a more human-centered, tense narrative here too, probably.
I'd say so. And using that suburban setting, making the familiar feel off. unsettling. Like there are dark secrets hidden behind the picket fences, you know?
Yeah, the facade of normalcy. And visually, how are they going to create that mood?
Well, the descriptions mention an essential visual style. Static shots or maybe slow, controlled camera movements. Not frantic.
Okay, so deliberate, letting you soak it in.
Exactly. Focusing your attention, letting the tension build in the frame and the performances. They also mention using light and shadow effectively, making the ordinary look sinister.
And sound design.
Seems important too. Talk of using silence, but also sudden, sharp acoustic details to probably ramp up the anxiety. It sounds like they're aiming for a really specific, unnerving atmosphere. Gets under your skin.
Okay, so beyond the whodunit or what happened, what else is this film digging into? What are the deeper ideas?
Well, the mental health aspect is obviously huge. How we perceive people who we choose to believe.
Right, the credibility issue.
Yeah, and probably themes of loneliness, maybe isolation, even when surrounded by people in a neighborhood.
That distrust of institutions, too, with the police dismissing him.
Definitely feels like that's in play. And ultimately, I think it's asking questions about perception itself. What is reality when your own mind, or how others see your mind, is part of the equation?
Heavy stuff. It makes you think about whose stories get told, whose get ignored.
For sure. It taps into that idea of marginalized voices.
So what's the early buzz been like? Any word from early screenings?
Seems positive, actually. Reports suggest critics are praising how it balances the narrative tension with that psychological depth we were talking about.
Okay.
Comparisons are being drawn to films like Prisoners or maybe Nightcrawler in terms of atmosphere, that slow burn intensity.
Ooh, okay. High praise then.
Yeah. And apparently, Jack Quaid's performance is getting a lot of attention, like maybe a real standout breakout role for him.
Interesting. He's been great in The Boys, but this sounds like a different kind of challenge.
Totally different vibe, yeah. So the early enthusiasm definitely builds anticipation.
All right, so without giving anything away, what's the core mystery they uncover? What keeps you hooked beyond the initial setup?
It seems to revolve around uncovering these dark secrets surrounding the disappearance. Plural secrets, maybe.
Ooh, okay.
And it's hinted that this investigation forces both Simon and Ed to confront their own personal demons, their own pasts.
Ah, so it's not just about the external mystery, it's internal too.
Looks like it. A journey for both of them. Maybe confronting unquestionable truths about themselves and their neighborhood.
Gotcha. So recapping for everyone listening, neighborhood watch crime thriller, mentally ill young man witnesses something, police dismiss him, he teams up with his jaded neighbor. That's the baseline.
Right. But layered underneath, you've got potential psychological drama, maybe some dark humor, things of perception, loneliness, mental health.
And maybe inspired by some 80s classics in its DNA somehow.
Yeah, that unusual mix. It sounds like it's trying to be gripping, but also make you think.
It definitely sounds compelling. You've got the strong leads with Quaid and Morgan, the unsettling suburban setting, a director known for tension.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued.
Me too. It feels like it has the ingredients for something that could really stand out. Tense mystery, character focus, maybe some surprises.
Well, mark your calendars then. Neighborhood Watch drops April 25th, 2025, select theaters and on demand. Could very well be the next show you're looking for.
Definitely one to keep an eye on.
Thanks for tuning in to Binge Guide. We'll catch you next time.